Oh, look at the gallery of faces. Folks are able to just like wave to your neighbors, say what's up. Oh, wow. Look at all these. Oh, so wonderful. Look at the folks on page two. That's wonderful. I really appreciate folks in this space.
Hello. How's everybody doing, y'all? First of all, I want to say everybody said, oh, y'all came cute. I saw the gallery. Also, everyone came cute, like with an E at the end that's hard. So an adorable group already. My name is Erin. She, her, please. I'm in Tonga Land, also known as Long Beach, California. Special shout out to all my Southern California folks. I see us. It's warm out here, y'all. It's warm. I am a co-founder of Frailty Myths.
My name is Georgia, she, her pronouns, please. I'm living on Ohlone territory in Oakland, California. I am one of the co-founders of Frailty Myths. I also work at Greenpeace and am just really delighted to be here. Delighted, like I said, for this project and really excited about the visioning that we're gonna do together. Check, and Jonathan, I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome sauce. And I promise you will not see my face all night. Step up, step back. But hey, y'all, my name is Jonathan. I use they, them pronouns only, or you can just call me by my name. That's wonderful. I work at Greenpeace and really excited for this collaboration tonight and excited for you all to be in this space. We're going to talk a little bit about like how we're going to operate together in this space this evening. But as we're doing that, we also just wanted to like offer up some like general group agreements of how we're operating in this space. What we want to do is like offer up just a general content warning that as like we're discussing tonight's topic around racial justice, we are potentially going to be talking about or discussing, describing police, state violence, and other instances of oppression. So just wanted to like name down the front end and just offer up a content warning of like the discussion that we have in this space. Just offering that the fact that if you ever feel like a moment where you kind of need to take a step back, feel free to like hop off video or do what you need to do to take care of yourself and show up as best you can and as present as you can be in the space. We are asking folks to use I statements, so don't speak on anyone else's behalf. Speak from your own internal experience and what you have to offer to the space. That's valid, and we want folks to speak from that point. Think about impact over intention. We'll speak a little bit about this into a moment, but it's understanding that the way you intend for something to come off may not actually be the impact it has, and just acknowledging that in this space. And then also, I kind of briefly mentioned this earlier, but make space, take space, in terms of just like offering up the opportunity for everyone to be able to engage in the ways in which that feel really good for them. Yeah, so the goals for tonight, we want to come away with a know, a do, and a feel. We want folks to know the power of like visioning and community building. I want folks to do is engage in collective visioning via various like mediums that we're offering and that we've talked about. And then we also want folks to like feel connected to other folks in the space. So as we've been talking about, like these are like your neighbors, this is your community, this is a space. So like really like take the opportunities both in the big group as well as the small group activities we'll have to connect with other folks in the space. So what we're going to hop into is a grounding and container setting for this evening, and take you all to this last piece before we hop into the main activity for the night.
Cool. Thanks for all of that, Jonathan. Just before we get into the Maxman, we want to do a quick kind of grounding exercise. So some of the things, you know, Greenpeace and Frailty Myths are two separate organizations that have come together really around this idea of imagining, of people power, of the different connections between the environment, between race and gender and systems of oppression and how they act on all of us individually and collectively, and really building the road as we walk it. So we're going to be sharing each other's personal visions while we build this kind of collective vision. And the idea as we move forward in the workshops is to absorb each other's visions and incorporate those as we continue to imagine. So I wanted to, Jonathan, do you mind stopping to share for just a quick second so we can see each other? So just before we get into the grounding, I wanted to just do a quick exercise, and then Erin is going to share just a little bit about Frailty Myths revolutionary practice. So if we can just spend 2 minutes for some volunteers, like how are y'all feeling? Are people nervous? Are you anxious? Are you excited? We've got 3 weeks of visioning and being creative together, and I'm just, yeah, so someone want to take themselves off mute and just share some of your initial feelings?
So I feel great. I'm really excited about this experience and being here and these next workshops.
Awesome, thank you.
I feel nervous and excitement, nervous excitement.
Nervous, excited, awesome. That sounds like a good feeling. Other folks?
I'm excited to see faces that I recognize that I haven't seen in a while. I've been feeling lonely, so it's really good to see all of these people here. I will admit to feeling anxious as well, but mostly a little bit inspired just to see how many people have shown up and are looking sort of ready to do something maybe outside their comfort zone.
Awesome, thanks for that, Victoria. Anyone else want to share?
I was going to say I'm nervous and excited also just to be a ditto, but I'm also just overjoyed to see your faces as an extrovert who's been hiding from the world. I am like overloaded with joy just seeing your faces. So it's so nice to see you again, all of you.
Thanks, Althea. One more, someone here from one more person want to share?
Hi. Hi, this is Joe from Mexico. She out here. I'm really excited to be part of this, and I believe that life sometimes is life is wise, and this opportunity come to me in the right moment. So thank you to me be here.
Awesome, it's so good to see you. And I'll just share for myself, like I'm also filled with anxiety and excitement and all the things. So I really appreciate the vulnerability of being in this space with y'all and what we'll build together. So before we talk about Frailty Myths Revolutionary Space, I would just want to really, we're trying to ground and kind of slowing down on reframing, on like practicing being in the world we want to create. And part of that is that we're intentional about the time we spend together. So I just want to invite everyone to take a couple of deep breaths. I'm going to do that. So if it's not your thing, no worries, but I'm going to really take a moment to ground us into the next hour that we're going to be here together. So I'm going to breathe in. I'm going to breathe in with my whole body, and I'm going to put a little stretch into it because I've been sitting all day. So I'm going to breathe in. And I'm going to let it out with a big sigh. A little shake. I'm going to take another big deep breath in. And breathe out. I'm going to take one final one in and think of all of the people that I love and have loved me into this work. And I'm going to breathe out. Shake some of the tension out of my shoulders. Cool. Thank y'all for that. And yeah, Erin, we're, you know, time is a construct, but we're a little behind the construct we set. So Erin, do you want to quickly tell us what Frailty Myths Revolutionary Practice is?
Not a problem. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? I saw a cat, by the way. That was amazing. Every time I see a kitty, I get very excited. So cat team. So just to say again, my name is Erin, she, her. I am co-founder of Frailty Myths, and one of the things that we wanted to talk to everyone about today is not only what Frailty Myths revolutionary practice is, but what is the revolutionary practice that we are going to bring into this space. And I think that there are 3 key points that I really want to touch on very quickly. And first and foremost is the revolutionary power of exploration, which I'm hoping and I think is the reason why all of us are in this room today. One of the things that inspired this workshop and this space is recognizing that almost all of us are in daily pursuits of deconstructing racism, sexism, classism, oppression, inequalities, global oppression, all of these things that require our energy and our effort to put out the fire that is our day-to-day. And that is a necessary work, and yet often what it does is the insidious nature of white supremacy and of capitalism, right, is that it doesn't allow us the space to imagine and to explore. Right? And that is what Frailty Myths believes as an organization, and then what we are bringing into this space is that there is revolutionary practice in taking time to imagine and to dream and to explore, and so that is what we will do here. Secondly, one of the things that we find most important in our work is the value of practicing. I just have like a bunch of old idioms in my head because I grew up around just old Black folks, right? So when I was a kid, my grandmother used to say, right, you will get good at anything you practice at. Right? So if you are late all the time, you will be late, right? Because you are practicing being late. And that's what we talk about, right? The value, that's for some of y'all, right? The value of practicing, right? And that is with anything, not only practicing how we love each other, how we care for each other, how we're tender to ourselves, right? But how do we practice imagining a world that does not exist? So we believe in the revolutionary practice of, or the revolutionary value of practice and practicing what we want to imagine in the future. And finally, and at the core of what we do is a belief in collectivism. We are enough, and together we are more than enough, right? And so we believe that together we can accomplish things, and it's only through our collective vision and only through our collective practice, to put two ideas together, that we will find ourselves in a space where we are creating justice, equality, the things that we are attempting to build every day in our individual work. So those are the three things that you will hear us talk about that will be at the core of what we are doing over the next 3 weeks, over the month of August. August, by the way, y'all, doesn't have any holidays, only month in the American calendar with no holidays, but now it has a holiday, and it's called Imagination, Future We Fight for the next 3 weeks on Thursday. That'll be our holiday. So just to say, we're gonna work on our revolutionary practice for the next 3 weeks is gonna center exploring the value of practicing and collectivism. So with that being, I'm gonna toss it back to Georgia so that we can start our container and grounding building exercise. Georgia.
Thank you, Erin. That's my best friend, y'all. She's brilliant. Cool. So in all of that, we're going to start with what we call a maximize, minimize exercise. I know a lot of folks have done something like this before, but really wanting to ground this exercise about what maximizes your ability to be your best and most whole self, and what minimizes your ability to be your best and most kind of whole self. And part of the idea of this exercise is, as Erin said, and as part of this practice, we don't know what it's like to live in a world without oppressive systems. So we got to imagine it, we got to try things on, and we got to find the kind of bravery and strength to say, you know, to assert what minimizes us and discover what minimizes us, so that we can discover and assert what maximizes us and respect each other's boundaries, recognizing that we are not trying to achieve sameness. What maximizes me might minimize Erin, and vice versa. But because we love and respect each other, there can be space enough, because as Erin said, like, we are in the practice of abundance. So we're going to take 2 minutes, and we're just asking that every person takes 2 minutes, maybe a pen and a paper if that's your jam, or you know, the technology, keyboards, typewriters, whatever, and write down a couple things that minimize you, that make you not show up as your best self. So for me, if someone assumes what I know and don't know, that really minimizes me. If someone offers me unsolicited advice, that really makes me want to withdraw. Whereas one of the things that maximizes me is for people to ask me to explain something that I've said that they don't understand. That makes me feel like someone's really listening, and that makes me feel like I can blossom into my whole self. So there's no right answer. This is about you and what maximizes and minimizes you. So if Rico, if you're back on and could put on some jazzy tunes, or some of that lo-fi, then we can, we'll just spend 2 minutes doing that, and we'll come back and do a share back. Wonderful. So we're gonna do a group share back, and thanks ahead of time for the patience as we navigate the world of Zoom and virtual spaces. So part of the idea here, just again to say, is that we're developing a shared collective language so that we learn how we can communicate, how I can say to someone that I know or don't know, like, hey, your behavior is minimizing me, and how they can hear that as an opportunity to change and to respect someone more, rather than feeling like they need to be defensive. So it's really like, how do we communicate our truths and our wholeness in a way that is really effective, rather than shutting people down. So let's start with minimizers. So if I can just ask, let's just try people coming off mute. We'll try one at a time, coming off mute, being mindful of time and being mindful of who's taking up space and who's speaking and all the things. And if it gets out of control, then we can and we can do it a different way. But let's try can some folks just take themselves off mute and share some minimizers? What makes you not show up as your best self? What are some things?
I would say not being acknowledged when I'm putting myself out there, and also worrying about what other people think about me.
Okay, thanks, John. Other minimizers?
People micromanaging me.
Yeah, micromanaging. Can you say just a little bit more about what that looks like or feels like?
I think it's with the implication that I don't know what I'm doing, or what I'm doing isn't enough. It's just that they have to hover over me, be all lurky and annoying. You know.
Thanks, Mo. Other minimizers?
I've got one. Projections of physical ability based on appearance. Yeah, as a chronically ill person, it's a big one.
Other minimizers?
For me, also as a chronically ill person, one of them is just physical pain and the same kind of abilities that do or don't come with being in that pain.
Thank you for sharing that. Are there things that shut folks down or make them feel like they can't be their whole selves?
Yeah, I shut down when things are confusing. And I don't understand, or I'm not being understood, so that minimizes me.
Thank you so much.
I shut down when I can't take time to translate, because I sometimes think in pictures and sometimes think in Spanish, and certain things are only in English. So if I don't have time to be able to like gravel through what that looks like to get it out, I get really frustrated and I just shut down.
Yes, thank you. Cool. Other minimizers?
I feel like blanket statements always make me feel sort of minimized. I always want the chance to have a more nuanced discussion about a thing. And I feel like when someone opens up a conversation with all this or all that kind of thing, the conversation's over and my maximized self is all about talking. So so I feel like when stuff is cut short, it's hard for me. But I recognize that's the inverse of other people, of other people's maximization.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. And let's share, what about some maximizers? What maximizes folks? And yeah, and Victoria, that's also a great point, because, you know, like some people's minimizers, other people's maximizers, and that's how it is.
For me, what maximizes me is the sense of a culture of trust and safety. That to me is really important, as well as access to nature, flowers, plants, dogs.
Awesome, thank you. Other maximizers?
I feel best maximized when I'm free to shine and free to speak my truth and direct observations and ask hard questions without and feel safe in doing that.
Thanks, Wanda. Also lovely to see you. I miss you so much.
Yay!
Awesome. So we could keep going all evening with Max and Min. We're going to move on for the sake of time, but we will continue to revisit this. And really, as we're in our group spaces and as we're visioning, as in imagining, we really want to lift up this language so that we can be in the practice of being our more whole selves and make that space for each other. So we want to make sure that we get to some of the collective visioning work. We do have 3 sessions, so this container building is really important. So as we move into the next sessions, we can really expand our visioning. So I've got next, Erin, you going over some shared terms, and then And then to Jonathan for the politics of imagining.
All right, so one of the things though that Georgia said, and I apologize, I feel like all of my sections are me just talking to y'all, so I apologize for that. I generally like to have conversations. But one of the things that Georgia did mention though is that we really want to build a shared language. And so there are some words that are often used that are going to be used, especially today in our conversation around race, that I think are used in social media, are used in kind of the milieu, if you will, of the day, but very often are not used correctly. Just to be frank, people just be throwing intersectionality around right now like it's just hotcakes. But very rarely are we all using kind of the same idea about stuff. So we're going to go through really quick just a few key terms that we're going to have together. The first ones that you see up there are the conversation around race versus ethnicity versus nationality. This is just a key kind of key point. I'll go real quickly. But these are some of the things that people often get mixed up. So just to say, nationality is where you're from. Your ethnicity is generally where your family is from. And race is a social concept that is made up. So if you can kind of hold all those three things together, I am Black. My family are African-American and West Indian, and I am from the United States. I'm American. Boom, that's my race, my ethnicity, and my nationality. One of the other things that we're gonna hear is we're gonna talk a lot about racial justice. Racial justice, obviously, right, when we talk about that, we're talking about the systemic fair treatment of people of all races, resulting in equitable opportunities and outcomes for all. Generally, when you hear people talk about racial justice, they are talking about systemic change, right? So that is changing institutions, systems, that's big change, right? Not how we necessarily kind of interact with each other. But racial justice is really about kind of big, overarching, cultural, systemic change. One of the other big things that we're going to talk about a lot is implicit bias. That's another term that I feel like is popping up, getting a lot of play. That's great. Make sure that we're using it in the right way. And Jonathan's got a really great definition of that up here, which is just attitudes and stereotypes that affect our understanding, actions, decisions, and the most important part, in an unconscious manner, right? So very often in implicit bias, there are opinions and beliefs that we have that shape our ideas and shape how we act, that we don't often know the opinions that, we don't actually know that we have those opinions. So that's what we mean when we're talking about implicit bias. There are things, the ideas that we have that reflect and change us and shift our ideas in an unconscious way. The other three big terms that we're really going to talk about here is the one that I just mentioned, intersectionality. Shout out to our friend Kimberly Crenshaw, incredible constitutional scholar. If you want to read more about it, you can read Critical Race Theory. That is an incredible body of work that talks about the way in which race and the criminal justice system here in the United States interact with each other. Kimberly Crenshaw, by the way, coined this term like in the late 70s, early 80s, and y'all just caught this. I'm not mad at it. I'm just saying it's been around for like 40 years, and now she's hot. She's a professor at UCLA. She's a real person. Email her. You can chat with her. That just talks about the way in which we have an interconnected nature of social categories, right? So I am not just Black, and I am not just a woman, right? But I am a Black woman. And that is a specifically different experience than it is to be a Black man, than it is to be a Black trans woman, than it is to be a Black almost any other identity, right? That those intersections of those two identities shape who I am, and they shape the way in which people interact with me. A lot of times people talk about intersectionality with like relation to like a caste system. That's really weird. That's not what she's talking about. I don't know what to say other than no. But here we go. If you want to read more, by the way, about intersectionality, you have my email. Hit me up. It's just Aaron Carter, 2 N's, at Frailty Myths. I would love to send you reading about it. So please, if you're into it, let me know. We can talk more about it. Another thing that we're going to talk a lot about here is privilege. Privilege is also a concept that's been talked about for a very long time. Shout out to my boy Du Bois, The Wages of Whiteness. We talked about this in the Souls of Black Folks, really incredible piece if folks want to read more about this. Privilege is just advantages that folks hold, often for nothing, for no reason. A really easy way to say this is that you're born on third and convinced you hit a triple. Don't even have to do the academics. There it is right there. You can also read, if you're really interested in reading more about privilege, Unpacking the Knapsack of White Privilege by Peggy McIntosh is a very kind of basic understanding of it. It is not the entirety of it, but it's a kind of general understanding. Last concept, and I will shut up and we will imagine. Intent versus impact. This is my favorite thing. Please remember this when we engage with folks. There is what you said and there is what it impacted people by. So I said, I really hate people that aren't Lakers fans, because I do, because I only love my Lakers, but that might hurt some people's feelings, right? So we have what we said, and then we have the impact that it has on folks. I would really, really ask that we hold that idea of intent versus impact, and we try to prioritize what the impact was of our words as we engage in this space, especially since we're going to go out on a ledge and really begin to imagine and get vulnerable, and that will lead people to unsafe spaces. And so if we can make sure that we're thinking a lot about our impact, I think we'll have a beautiful session. So again, I will stop talking. We will imagine the future. Georgia, do you want to, oh no, Jonathan, I think you're gonna take us through collective visioning. We're about to get to it, y'all.
Oh, yes. I love it. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I just appreciate everyone, how they're showing up in the space. Also, just like my own transparency. It's been a long day and my nervous system was shot, but I have some water in my system now and feeling a little bit better and really excited for folks in the space. But now's the time where we're going to engage in the collective visioning. So really excited about this space. And next slide. Before we dive into it, we just wanted to offer up some just like thoughts. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because we really want folks to dive into the conversations, but we want to talk about like some framings. So one, when we're talking about this visioning opportunity, why visioning? Understanding how Aaron and Georgia have mentioned already, is that the fact there's power in imagining, right? We live in this very tumultuous time. We live in like unprecedented times. We're living in like overlapping like crises at the same time, right? And also knowing that as we are like struggling and working through like the real lived experiences that we have every day, also knowing that there's power in actually imagining what are the alternatives to people not having access to healthcare? What are the alternatives to people not having access to stable housing? What are the alternatives to people not having clean water? And really like figuring out what those imaginings are and how we can build towards them. Also understanding, again, we've said this a couple times, we're gonna keep saying it, it's gonna be messy. You can see me messing up my wig. It's gonna be messy, right? And there's no perfect answer. As long as we're not invalidating other folks' experiences, understanding this practice is gonna be messy. And also just understanding that for the folks in the space to have like time, space, and energy to be able to engage in visioning is a form of privilege and just honoring that space. Next slide. And then really quick, again, just thinking about the politics of imagining. So we're in this space, we're starting to like loosen our shoulders, like get in all in the mood, and understanding that as we're about to dive into this space with each other and continue to like be open and vulnerable and share, collective struggle does not mean the sameness. So the goal is not for everyone to come out with the same vision of what the future we're fighting for is. That's not the goal. And also understanding that it's okay that we don't know the answer right now. What we have to offer and bring to the space is absolutely valid. And then, yeah, we've talked about this a little bit, but I'm really pushing for our collective visioning to be intersectional. So again, knowing that like folks are gonna bring different things to the space, we have some group agreements, but if my vision is that I envision a world without any bald people, that's kind of excluding folks. Also doesn't make sense being that I'm bald as well. Right, so like thinking about like as we're visioning, just like being mindful that our visions aren't excluding others in our reflection times that we hold. But with that, we do want to go ahead and jump into the actual like core of what we want to offer. So I believe it's back to you, Aaron.
I feel like I'm on a TV show, y'all. Someone who grew up with a nerd. This is as cool as it'll get right here, right in this moment. Super exciting. So we have a number of prompts that we're going to be thinking about in this workshop today. And just because we're going to be visiting them now doesn't mean that obviously we won't be thinking about racial justice in our other workshops, but just to say that this is going to be some of the things that we're thinking about today, right now. And so I'll read them off because I'm really good at reading and want to show off a little bit. So here are the 4 prompts that we have. So I am fighting for a future where the police have been defunded. I am fighting for a future without state-sanctioned violence against people of color. I'm fighting for a future where the war on Black people has ended. And I'm fighting for a future without white supremacy. These are just prompts for us to begin to think about racial justice. Obviously, as lots of us in the room have been fighting for racial justice, we know that these are not all of them. They're just prompts to begin us to think. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna shift over and do some breakout groups and really begin to think about these ideas. So I'm trying to figure out, Jonathan, am I gonna toss it back to you to open up the groups, or Georgia, are we gonna do the breakouts?
But what we're actually going to do is just take 5 minutes. And again, as Georgia mentioned at the top of the call, folks have already begun to think about their power item. What we're doing with these prompts is offering folks a way to like think about ways to like dig deeper. So we are going to do is offer folks just a quick personal space for like the next 5 minutes to like reflect a little bit deeper on the prompts that we have to offer. We'll put them back up on the screen. And then we'll actually break folks out into like small group sharings. And so small groups is really what we want folks to like really dig in with each other and build community and really discuss. So it'll be an opportunity for folks to like share with each other in the space of the small group. And then we'll bring everyone back for the large group discussion and on a broader groups discussion about like where folks will be able to be. So Rico, if you could play us some tunes, we'll just take the next 3 to 5 minutes and just offer some folks this opportunity to just do some quick journaling, some additional reflections, and then we'll break folks out into groups. Hey y'all, thank you all so much for engaging us in that time and space. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna break folks out into small groups of 5. And what we're gonna have the opportunity is for folks to like continue to dive deeper on these reflections. So what you just thought up in your personal reflection moment just now, as well as your power item and anything else you want to bring in the space. We're just going to offer folks like the next 10 minutes or so. We are making a slight time adjustment, but for about the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to break out into groups and allow folks that space to engage one another directly and offer that space to one another. So shortly, folks should be receiving an invite to that space. And then once you get it, just click to join the breakout room and we will get started with the 10 minutes. And then again, we'll offer folks an opportunity to engage in that space. So yeah, once you see the little notification, should be a little blue box says join breakout group. Join the breakout group and we'll see y'all in a little bit. There we go. Awesome sauce. Thank you all for taking that moment to engage. And it sounds like the report back is really solid so far. So I'm gonna hand it back to you, Aaron, to take us through some report back.
Yes, before we move on, Jonathan, I just have to shout out your incredible backgrounds throughout this. They have been impressive and wonderful, and I'm as always impressed by everything you do, but the background game has been so solid. It's ridiculous. I will say also too that my group was lovely. I hope that your groups were as lovely as mine was, because it was a joy and beautiful and lovely, and all the words. So what I thought we could do, I'm gonna shift over to Cat Gallery so I can see all y'all wonderful folks. Just came through with the cuteness. Okay, so we're gonna do a group share back. So same kind of way we did before. If people get weird, I'll just start like authoritarian muting people. It's not a problem. But so let's start sharing. What were some of the things that folks kind of shared as both their future that they fight for or your power item? What do we got? What do we got? Who wants to talk to me?
I'll go. I'm Melissa. I think I hogged like 6 of the minutes of my group. So sorry. But it was really lovely to see you all and get to talk with you face to face. Not really face to face, but I did not share my power item with pre-share my power item, but I shared a picture, and it was this really beautiful picture that somebody took on the last Zoom meeting that I had when I was employed at Greenpeace, and it was this activist network call. So all these different people that come to camp every year, and it was just the very end of the call, and everybody waving and saying goodbye, and this is redundant with my group, sorry, but it's, I think that it's the connections that we make at camp or in life, or with your community or with your, neighbors or your family sometimes not your family, but having those connections and how that feeds out into sorry, hold on 1 second. Also, this huge picture of my face that I don't want to see. How those connections create community, and how when you love people like that, and my Action Camp family, and some of you are on here, there's like all of this time that we spend together. It feels like camp is like this microcosm of what I hope the world will be someday, and lots of people from different identities showing up and we attempt to like create this space where people feel safe, and so they show up with their whole selves, and sometimes it's a hot mess and sometimes it really works. But people show up and they're there for a couple weeks and they're just in the thick of it, and they camp, and there's community bathrooms. It's awesome. People are brushing their teeth together, and it's that feeling of what family should be. Ideally it is, that just you're in it together, and it doesn't matter what you identify as. It's just that you feel safe and that you're affirmed and you're seen wholly and that you see others wholly. And that connection, that community is, I think, the thing that is what I hold on to. And my kids go to camp, and so when it got canceled this year, they were like, what? We don't get to see all of our aunties and uncles. And so that feeling of love, that I have all these people that I love all over the place now. And if we all felt like that, then there wouldn't be so much shit going down. So thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I really appreciate that. He says just a set of the most adorable children ever. It's ridiculous. I look at my seer, it's like, ah, kind of cute children. Who else has something wonderful to share?
I don't know if it's wonderful, and I don't want to.
Not wonderful. I'm into that.
It was that I found it really hard to come up with positive vision statements. Like all my vision statements for the future was like, alarms don't cause my friends like terrible anxiety attacks. Like this thing doesn't happen, that thing doesn't happen. And it was super difficult to really get in the mind frame of coming up with what is the positive version of the thing I don't want to see. And you know, my whole team heard that, but like I could think of 100,000 interactions that have happened, you know, small little things that could have been positive and nice, but that were shitty. And so I guess, you know, in the interest of shutting up, I'll just say that like it was a challenge to come up with a positive statement rather than a world I don't want to see. This is the world that I do want to see. And so kudos to everybody who's able to do that, because it's hard.
And just to say, I think that going back to that original concept of practicing, right? Like, how do we practice this? That we are in a space where it is our work to practice talking about what we can deconstruct. And so that's why we're here in this space right now, to kind of practice about what we can construct. And I'm with you. I can tell you what I hate about a book, like it's nobody's business. But it's hard to tell you what I loved. So that's a great point. It's really great. Who else has something to share with us? We'll share back. Brigitte?
Yeah, I'll share because we had a great group. And one thing that came up was one of us wanted a future of joy, which I thought was fantastic. And it reminded me of that, yeah, that is what we want, and we can put a positive spin. We also talked about seeds and growing and children and the importance of food. And yeah, other things, but that was good. That was good. The joy thing was really, I don't know, it just surprised me when you said joy. I was like, wow, yeah, we can imagine joy. So I like that.
See the conversation around seeds too, and food got a lot of folks activated. Any thoughts on that as it relates to racial justice?
Yeah, share a little ditty I wrote. I'll share because I kind of did a little preview of this in the lead up, so I'll share that and then the thing I wrote today. In the future I fight for, every view was designed for you. Movements align for more than removal of eyesores like Confederate flags. Our very checkered past buried, not to deny it, but so it never comes back, never move backwards. The future is as sweet as it last is. It's easier to see the more you practice. It's time now for reflection without timeout. Thinking about repairing society where the first question is not how to bring crime down. Let's bring smiles up. Irrigate food deserts so co-ops crop up. Let's make health the #1 line item in defense. Make it the people, not the politicians, that must be convinced about us.
I have nothing to say to that amazingness, Rico. The audacity of your wonderfulness. That's incredible and beautiful.
It's also hard for me not to go on the negative on like, what is it not? So I feel that, Victoria. But check.
Who else can add to this beautiful conversation? Tony, as I see, did I see your mute off, Tony?
Yeah, I'm just like thinking how I'm gonna say what I said succinctly, so I'm gonna try. But I also was comparing a lot of what it looks like based off of all of these things that I've seen in the healthcare system, things I've experienced, and then things that I haven't experienced that friends of mine have experienced, or things that I've only can imagine experiencing in the healthcare systems. And there's just so many turns where racism and sexism, classism, all of the combined, so many turns where that's found. And I wrote that the future I fight for honors everyone's mental health and is free from war, police, and prisons. But of course, like we were discussing, how can we trace that all the way back to the seed? Because, you know, we're thinking of how to avoid shitty situations. Well, maybe I was thinking, cover that in our education system. But is that, if we're covering it in our education system, even though it's still existing, and so how do we really trace it all the way back? I was, for healthcare, I was thinking it's a question of access, and it's just, I'm going to stop there because I'm trying to read my notes and incorporate them into what I'm saying, and it's not going so well. I'm tired, but I think it's mentally exhausting work also to think about all the ways in which this system is difficult and to turn it around and make it something better. Like we can, like, access increasing access as opposed to calling people disabled, right? Like just like there's the nuance of all of these words and systems. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah, so I just in the just because time is a concept I'm forced to live by. I'm gonna kick over to Georgia real quick, but I also just want to remind folks that you're not losing me. I'll see y'all on Thursday, so hold these ideas too. You don't have to give them all up now. Georgia, you want to walk us through just another quick little rundown real quick?
Yeah, sure. And we kind of, these two kind of pieces of the agenda merged a little bit, and we are short on time. So just to echo what Erin said, we really want the Facebook event group to be a place where if you haven't had a chance to upload your items, that you can upload them there, but also share your thoughts, and so that we can keep this active visioning for the next 3 weeks, and that as we build on each other. So we ask that people kind of think about or prepare a manifestation. And so Rico, I think, just shared his, which was beautiful. And so we have time for maybe just one or two, not any longer than 3 minutes is the max, but if maybe we could do two shorter ones. Does anyone have a poem or a painting or a song that's something they want to share? Or a dance move. Also, it's fine if not.
I just want to make sure that I'm giving people space. My biggest fault is that I talk all the time. But can we share on Facebook? If like, you know, because I know
Absolutely.
we don't.
Yeah, we really want to encourage that. And we're gonna next week, and we'll talk about next steps later, but yeah, definitely we can share on Facebook, and people can post videos or post images.
But I'll be your fallback. If no one else wants to share, I'm on the background. I got something for you.
Okay. Well, Victoria, why don't you go ahead? We'll do one. We are at the end of time. So I think we can just, next week's agenda, we'll just focus on the kind of bigger sharing piece, and that's fine. And we can move to the closing for this session so we can honor the time that we said that we were going to stand with. So why don't you go for it? I'm going to spotlight your camera.
Ugh, oh God, that's terrible. Anyway, I was just thinking a lot about the request. Sorry, the cat is driving me crazy. I was thinking a lot about the request to have a vision for racial justice, and I was thinking a lot about the fact that a lot of people of color have had for a long time visions of racial justice, and who am I to, you know, impose on that. And I was reading the I Have a Dream speech, and I was really struck by how much natural imagery was in it. And I just wrote a little poem that, you know, came to me when I was thinking about this meeting and what I wanted to share. And so I said, I have a dream. Oh, wait, that wasn't me. But it can't help feeling like we've been here before or are still here. That vision was warm, sunlit paths, red plains, snow-capped peaks, and mighty streams. Repeat after me. It's from the mountains that freedom rings. I'm content to enter this shared dream, passing out bells in the foothills, keeping watch, making sure we still have mountaintops to shout from when the time comes and everyone has arrived. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Victoria. Sorry, I wasn't watching the chat. Valentina, did you have something you wanted to share?
Oh, just real quick. I think, thank you. That was very beautiful. Thank you for sharing. For me, like one thing that I've sort of relearned in the last year was doing more things with my hands and creating, which I didn't do for many, many, many years. And so I don't usually show these that much, but there's my family's from Chile, and there's a big culture of embroidery, and especially embroidery and resistance. And so I started doing embroidery, which has given me a lot of strength. Oh my gosh, now my whole face is here. Anyway, so I just wanted to share a couple of pieces, and I will put them on the Facebook as well. So very much inspired by nature. So I've been embroidering flowers, and this comes from like a pattern that I copied. And then I thought, I don't need a pattern. I can just do other stuff. And so I've been doing sort of more like this stuff. And so, yeah, like it's amazing. Like sometimes to just do things with your hands, it's just been like really healing. So thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Victoria, thank you for sharing. Thanks everyone for sharing. And really thinking about, I'm going to move into kind of next steps a little bit. But really thinking about as we move forward into next sessions, we'll spend a little bit more time, less time on the container building because we've done some of that work, and more time really in this collective visioning space. So, you know, we really reject this idea that only experts get to share and play and explore and do. So we really want this to be an inviting space. It's not about being perfect, it's about being whole. And so really tying this kind of vision to the present moment, but then building on each other, building on what each other are sharing, and building on the vision in the next session when we talk about gender justice, because we know gender justice has to include racial justice, and we know climate justice has to include racial justice and gender justice, and that these things are really connected. And so that's what we're trying to focus. I wonder as we close out, and then I'm going to pass it over to Jonathan, for folks who made them, could everyone, if you made a placard, could you hold it up and we'll just, and then we can take a photo. We've got someone taking a photo. John, you got to come out of the ocean a little bit.
How dare you ask John to come out of the ocean?
John, you stay in the ocean. You look beautiful.
Wow, how gorgeous. For gardens, yes. Thank you, Wanda, for that.
Yeah. Except I'm backwards.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. And next week we'll make another one. And next week we'll spend a little bit more time and actually try to hear from everyone's vision. So Jonathan, I know we're pretty much at time, but did we want to do any kind of debrief or just close out?
Water, you know what, we started off water, we're gonna end water. I always want to respect folks' time, and really just appreciate how folks were showing up in this space. And yes, I think in terms of like debriefing, we were like, yeah, share the hashtag, and so we do want folks to share the hashtag. We just do want folks to engage in the Facebook group and engage in those ways. I think also just like a general invitation and encouragement to like these things that you shared with us, share with your best friends, share with your partners, share with your family members, share in that group chat that you haven't contributed to in like the last 10 days. You know, do all of those things, because again, understanding as like we're practicing and growing like these skills and we're doing this together, that also like want to share these things and these acts of like labors of love and care with the folks that we're in community with every day. And so, yeah, really appreciate folks sharing up. That's the invitation and debrief that I'll have for today. We'll have more time to dive into like this really awesome engagement as we go forward. I would prefer to not have the last word. So like Georgia, Aaron, I'm gonna like alley-oop it back to y'all.
Alley-oop. I think Aaron's got a couple points anyway, and that
And I'm a huge basketball fan. It all ties together. This is great. So just to say, everyone, by the way, is beautiful and wonderful. I'm so excited to have had everyone to be a part of this. This has been amazing. Super excited to see y'all next Thursday and the Thursday after, just because I've been trapped in the home for months, and you're all my new best friends. So congrats. But I just want to say, finally, in the word, in the idea around collective vision and collectivism as a central fundamental idea of what we do, both Greenpeace and Frailty Myths are member-based organizations. That means both Greenpeace and Frailty Myths exist because of amazing people in the community like y'all, and enjoy the work, understand how powerful it is, and commit to supporting those organizations through that struggle. We need to continue to do that work, especially right now, especially given what is going on the next few months up until November 2nd, but the day after November 2nd and past that, right? So continue to support and invest in member-based organizations like how you can find Frailty Myths. We're the only organization called Frailty Myths. It's not hard. Greenpeace has a little bit of a brand, so y'all might be able to find it online. But this is to say, make sure that you are supporting community-based, membership-based organizations like Frailty Myths, like Greenpeace. Make sure that you continue to make sure that in your community that folks have a home to learn and to imagine and to grow and to be creative. That doesn't have to be Frailty Myths, that doesn't have to be Greenpeace, that can be whatever it is, but make sure that you are investing in that. I think that you're all amazing. I'm super excited to see you next Thursday. Congratulations on your first step on imagining a future. We're about to do something incredible together. Georgia, you got anything you wanna leave us with? Any final thoughts?
Nope, I think you're all gorgeous. I would love if we could end with a collective breath together, just as we started, so we can really like suck in all of the beauty that we just experienced together and have it hold it within our bodies throughout the week. So we'll take 3 collective breaths. I invite you to, obviously you don't have to. And so we'll breathe in and think about all of the things and vulnerability that we shared with each other. And breathe out to share it with all the folks who weren't able to join us. And breathe in and think about the world that we can create. And breathe out all of the oppressive structures that act on our bodies. And we'll take one just final big breath of gratitude. And breathe it out. Thank you all so much for joining us, and can't wait to see you next Thursday. And please fill out, be in the Facebook group, and we'll keep imagining.